What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and another narrow victory. Not quite the overall performance, I think. It wasn't a bad performance, and it wasn't really an average performance either. We were still pretty good, but the quality of the finishing today definitely needed a lot of improving. What did they say? We had like 18 shots, I think, and of those, I think only six were on target, and of those, only one actually went in. So, yeah, just not the same quality of finishing that I think we've come to expect. But before we start talking about the team individually, let's talk about the formation and the lineup. Uh, formation's the same, but the lineup I did really enjoy. First of all, you got Rudiger, David Luiz, and Espilicueta as the back three, which I think is a good lineup. I don't know if this is just thinking, oh, Cahill needs a break, or if he's actually being put on the bench because the quality of performances have not been up to standard. Whatever the case, I think this lineup is a lot more solid, as shown by the clean sheet today, because namely, without Conte in the midfield, our defense has been under a lot more pressure because he's not in there doing the same work to keep our back line from being run at constantly. So, yeah, our back line has been exposed a few times, but what really shows in that is most of the time, Espilicueta only has to clean up, for the few times that they do get at our back line, and that's not very often because Conte's in there. But without Conte, they've been getting at our backline a lot more often. David Luiz has been flying into challenges a lot more. Cahill's been exposed for his weaknesses because he doesn't have the pace to keep up. And so Espilicueta's not been able to do the job by himself anymore. It's been a lot more that he has to handle. And so, yeah, it's been much more difficult for him. When you put Espilicueta and Rudiger back there together, now they're both working together to cover, and it looks so much more solid. They're both very good at covering back there, and so when you've got two coverers, yeah, you've got a lot more solid back line, letting in fewer chances. Honestly, the only real chances that they had today were later on when they were flooding people forward and creating their own chances. We didn't give them any chances tonight, like we did against Everton in midweek when Cahill was in. So, yeah, I really did like this back line. I still think our best back line is probably going to be Rudiger, Christensen, and Spilicueta. But at the same time, we do have a midweek game, so we don't want to throw all three of those in and not have any of them fit for the midweek game. So, yeah, take for what it is. Alonso and Zappacosta were the wingbacks. Another good choice, Fabregas, Bakayoko, and then Hazard, Pedro, Morata up top. So it's kind of a typical lineup, but I do like the fact that Rudiger finally gets his place over Cahill. I think he deserves to start over Cahill, even though Cahill's our captain. I just think his performances and his abilities have been much better recently. As far as the individual performances go, Courtois only had to make a couple saves today, but they were crucial saves. I've been talking about how he needs to start stepping up in key situations. I've said you watch De Gea, you watch Lloris, they're coming up with clutch saves to keep their team in the match. Courtois, he's making the saves he should be making, but he's not making those clutch saves to keep us in the match. So today, he didn't really have to make any of those saves. They didn't have any great shots. There were a couple right to his hands. He still has to be very aware on crosses, throw-ins, anything like that, because that's still a dangerous situation. But as far as making saves today, he only had to make a couple, and they were relatively easy. So he had an easy night, but he did do his job. So it's very good to see. The back line, Espilicueta made some very crucial blocks tonight. You could tell he seemed a lot more comfortable than he has looked in the past few games. I've talked about how it's almost like he's doing too much. He's trying to constantly cover for the back line, and in doing that, he overworks himself and he overcompensates, and so he goes flying into a challenge when all he has to do is stand him up. So tonight he looked much more comfortable. He didn't look like he was flying everywhere. It looked like he was just, I'm going to go close you down, I'm going to stand you up, I'm going to make you play backwards. And on top of that, he came up with some crucial blocks late on as well. So, yeah, very good performance from him. David Luiz, a little bit less of a problem tonight, but still not the quality I've come to expect from him from last season. It's just flying into challenges. He's making stupid challenges. He's committing fouls when he doesn't need to. His passes half the time are looking for long balls. The most frustrating one has to be like late on. I think we were in stoppage time at that point. Moving the ball around, keeping possession. Goes to David Luiz. He tries some crazy through ball to Zappacosta. Why? Why do you need to do that? We're keeping possession very well. We've got 2 minutes left. Let's just keep possession. Why do you have to force a through ball when we don't even need one? Just keep it simple. So, I don't know, that crazy side of him is definitely shown its ugly head this season, and it's still there. So, I'm still frustrated with him overall, but he did have less of a problem tonight than he has had in the past few games. And then Rudiger on the left side, very good game from him. Had to make a lot of just great defensive efforts, mainly up against Jordan Ibe in the second half. Afobe and Defoe and Stanislas in the first half did okay, but didn't really create any dangerous chances. In the second half, though, they brought Ibe on, and that's where they really started to look a lot more dangerous because he has a little bit more, I think, not just speed, but also a little bit more of a clever side to him than Stanislas does. So he was constantly attacking down that left side where Rudiger was, and I think Rudiger did a very good job of standing him up, keeping him in front of him, and not letting him have any good chances. So good performance from him overall on the night. The wingbacks, Zappacosta and Alonso, both of them had average games. I'll say Zappacosta had a better game going forward, helping out on the width, getting out there and providing that width, and then providing a decent cross most of the time. Whereas Alonso looked pretty good on the defense overall, but on the attack didn't provide much. So it's kind of an opposite game for him. But both of them just kind of average. I still think Alonso still hasn't hit the heights that he had when he played against Tottenham. But he's still not playing poorly. He's just not the same player that he was that one game. He stepped up big time and then dropped off since then. Zappacosta, not bad, but not Moses. Not that same level of energy that Moses brings. So they're both lacking a little bit. We don't really have an option at left back besides Kennedy, so I don't really know what to do there with Alonso, but obviously once Moses gets back, he'll provide that energy that he normally does, and hopefully that'll help going forward. In the middle, Bakayoko and Fabregas, both of them played pretty well overall. Bakayoko did well on defense to sort of help cover for defense because that's what we need in there. We need a midfield who's going to shut down the attack so that way they don't have just free reign to run constantly at our defense because that wears out your defense. So he did a pretty good job of shutting them down. He does have a few moments still, though, of just losing the ball carelessly, bad passes that sort of set up an attack. So we saw that led to a goal against Watford last weekend. Here it led to a couple attacks that ultimately we managed to shut down because, like I said, our defense was more solid tonight. But yeah, it's kind of scary to see that he doesn't have sort of the calm mind to, okay, I've won the ball, now let's find an easy pass. It's like, I've won the ball, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Pass it here, and then he gives it away. So hoping that he can sort of calm down a little bit more the more playing time he gets. But obviously not having Conte in there as well is sort of a hindrance because there's not that hard worker in there that's constantly doing everything. Fabregas, his passes tonight weren't really coming off. Don't know why. The runs seemed like they were there. Hazard was back up there. Morata seemed like he was making some good runs in behind. So I don't know quite why the passes weren't coming off and why he wasn't trying them more. But yeah, tonight that side of his game wasn't really there. But defensively, he had to work pretty hard. He had to make sure he was intercepting passes. Like I said, that part of his game kind of goes unnoticed, how well he reads the game and can intercept a pass. But by the end of the game, you could tell his hard work was wearing him out. He seemed really tired at the end. So definitely looking forward to seeing when Conte can return because we need that just tireless midfielder in there. Up to the front three, Pedro kind of had one of his nothing games where he's not really involved overall. He did have a couple good moments here and there, but for the most part, I don't really remember a lot of what he did. It seemed like it was mostly Hazard and Morata up there creating chances. As for Hazard, obviously got the only goal tonight and created a lot of chances. He seems like he's getting back to his best, and honestly, I'm glad because it's been kind of frustrating for him. 2 years ago, coming off the victory, you could tell he was out of shape and he wasn't quite at the same levels as he was when we won the title under Jose. And then finally, by the end of the year, started stepping back up, and it started off last year a little bit slower. Kind of had to get into it, but a few games in, finally managed to get rolling. So it didn't take as long, but he finally, it did take a few games for him to finally get going. this season starts off with an injury. So it's almost like every season it's always been a little bit slow for him to get going, but once he finally does, I mean, that's when we start rolling. That's when we start getting our attack going. We start scoring goals very easily. So I'm hoping this was just the start of it, because you could tell tonight was a lot more of what we've come to expect. You know, running at the defense, creating problems, drawing fouls, creating opportunities for his teammates. That's what he's very good at doing. And so overall, he definitely did a lot more of that tonight, and I was pleased to see that from him. And then Murata had some chances that he should have finished. The thing about him is he has his moments where he kind of turns off, but then he has his moments where he steps up and puts in some hard work. That's kind of the problem, though. You know, we've come to be almost sort of privileged with having Costa in there. You know, because Costa just works and works and works. Anytime the ball is near him, he's going to put in a challenge, because he wants, even if he doesn't win the ball, he's going to put the defense under pressure because he wants his presence to be felt. He wants to be a problem for the defense. Murata's not that same type of player. You know, he's not the same aggressive player. He can work hard, and we have seen his aggressive side, but he's just not that same type of, I want to get a challenge in. I want to go knock that guy on his ass, even if I don't win the ball, because that's just, I want him to feel my presence. So, I don't know. It's kind of difficult not having that side to your game. You know, he is a very clever player, and he has his moments where he does something very nice, but then he doesn't finish it off. So he kind of an average game overall when you balance the good and the bad. But ultimately, he's in the team to score goals, and he didn't get that done tonight. So that's kind of the biggest concern coming out of this game. But anyway, onto the subs for the second half. First one to come on was, I think, a double sub. Yes. Drinkwater came on for Pedro, and Batman came on for Murata. At that point, you know, we were trying to sort of, we weren't really shutting up shop, because it was, I think, like the 72nd, 73rd minute. So it wasn't like we were trying to say, all right, let's just hold on to this one goal lead for the next 17 minutes. But at the same time, the midfield was sort of getting crowded out. We didn't have that same energy because Fabregas was starting to slow down a little bit more. So bringing Drinkwater in as a third midfielder was a good idea. And he did pretty well coming off the bench to kind of get into the rhythm very quickly. Obviously, he's still returning from injury, so he's still not quite up to the same speeds that we've seen him at Leicester, but he did look better than he did on Wednesday, you know, against Everton. He did look like he was putting a lot better challenges. His passing was a lot better tonight, so I'm hoping he can continue to grow and eventually become a huge asset for this team in the midfield, because we do need the numbers in there. And then Batman came off the bench, and I expected something out of him because that's what we've seen. Coming off the bench, typically he does well. He didn't tonight. He did not show up. He wasn't there to play. He just kind of lulled around for a little bit. Had a couple moments where he turned on for a second and then he was off again. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed with him tonight. I expected him to come out full of energy, and he didn't. You know, he came out with half energy. So it's kind of concerning. You know, both of our strikers aren't getting the job done. At this point, it's kind of difficult to know what to do, because obviously we don't have Costa to use, so that's a problem. But I will say we might want to start looking at some youth players. You know, we've got Taylor Crossdale, who's doing pretty well at the youth level. We've got Hudson-Odoi coming back from the U17s after having won the World Cup today for the U17s. So, yeah, it might be something where we start looking at one of them. Obviously, Tammy Abraham's out on loan, so we can't use him either. We've got to get something going, because Murata didn't get the job done today. You know, he did get the assist, so I'll give him credit for that. But overall, he wasn't as effective as we needed him to be today. Batman comes off the bench. He's not as effective as we need him to be today. So, yeah, that's a problem that's kind of showing itself over and over again. You know, the problem of, can these strikers get the job done? We've seen that they can in certain situations, but we need them to be more clinical, and we need them to be more consistent. So, the last sub today, though, was Willian came on for Hazard, mainly just to bring some defensive work rate in. And, you know, he came off and worked very hard, so not really much he could do at that point. But, yeah, overall, not bad from him. But that's about it for this game. So, you know, we do get another win. That pushes us up into fourth above Arsenal. I think we're 1 point behind Tottenham and 9 behind Man City at this point. So, and it's got to be better overall. It's got to be, what do you want? Hang on. So you can see she's very excited about the win as well. Well, that was nice. But yeah, it's got to improve because we are falling behind in the title race. Man City keeps putting together results, and we keep dropping points here and there. At some point, it's just going to be like, okay, Man City's run away with it, and we're not even close anymore. So we definitely need to start putting together some results. Conte hopefully will return soon. We've got Roma in the midweek, so need to get at least a draw away there because we want to maintain the top position in the group. Because if there's one thing that's going well about this season so far, it's the fact that our return to the Champions League, even though we're in a difficult group, we're still playing very well. We're top of the group, with 7 points. Yeah, with 7 points, and Roma I think only has 5. So we're 2 points ahead of them. If we tie at their place, that's a good result that keeps us in top of the group. So yeah, overall that's going very well. We just need to keep that momentum going there. We're doing well in the Carabao Cup. Obviously, the FA Cup hasn't started for us yet, but as long as we can continue to perform in those competitions and then still get together the results, get together the wins, even if they're not pretty, right now we just need to get these wins in. We need to keep winning so that way when the top teams do slip up, when Tottenham lose today, when Man U lose to Huddersfield last week, when Man City get that occasional draw and that occasional loss that's probably going to come up in the next few weeks when the games start coming together. That's where we need to start stepping up and getting those wins and start picking up points on the top teams, or else we're just going to throw away our league title halfway through the season. So that's about it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Who's your man of the match? Let me know. We can talk about it and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.